a moment. You fought in the Olympics. You
Right,
won a medal
right.
in the Olympic World Championships.
Yes,
You
yes.
know, HBO, the biggest. What's the best moment? If you had to pick one, what would it be? What would it be?
The one moment that made me famous, of course, it was that one line I said before the Roy Jones fight.
I was just telling you.
I mean, what's your excuse tonight, Roy? And then the way it all unfolded. But it's just, you know, it's all my work, all my sacrifice coming together at the most opportune time. I did it with the whole world watching, and in Las Vegas, and it was just one of those things, man. But you know, how they couldn't see me coming. How they couldn't see me coming is another thing. Sometimes you got these blinders on that just won't allow you to see what's right in front of your eyes, you know. And I think they just took me. They never thought in a million years that I could climb that mountain. But everything in my history shows that I'm made of that. That's what I'm about, you know what I mean? So it's one of those things.
What made you think of that moment? Because we were literally just talking about it, and I said, you know, I've watched that a million times. Any questions? Any questions? No one ever said, what made you at that moment just ask that question? Because no one will ever forget it.
I was just confident. I knew I beat him the first time, and I felt in my heart I beat him. And I think I felt something had been taken from me. Something had been stolen, robbed from me, man. They came in my house and they invaded for no apparent reason, and I just took that personal, man. I took it personal, and I told anybody that would listen, I was going to knock him out, and I meant it. And I was willing to fall on that sword, you know. And so I took the risk that these fighters, very few fighters take. When you look at my career, the rematch with Eric Harding, I didn't have to fight that fight. I took risks that no other fighter would ever take. You know, even when you look at the Hopkins fight, come on. What business am I doing in the ring with Bernard Hopkins? He's coming up 2 weight classes, and he's coming off of 2 losses. I'm coming off the Rocky Balboa movie and knocking out Roy Jones. What am I doing in the ring with Bernard Hopkins without a rematch clause? So the fix was already in, you know what I mean? The fix was already in. So, man, look, when you look back at my career, only 2 men got away, Bernard Hopkins and Chad Dawson. I beat them all. I rest my case. And I didn't get a rematch clause with Hopkins, because you could put an asterisk by that. You know, I respect Chad Dawson because he was man enough to give me a rematch. You know? So, you know, that's that whole debacle, but yeah.
Let me ask you something, just go all the way back to the amateur days. A lot of people talk about the Cuban mystique and the Cuban boxers. And how did you guys approach fighting the Cubans and knowing that, you know, how seasoned they were? And what was it like? What was that whole Cuban?
My team was, man, we were up for whatever. We didn't see nobody, you know what I mean? Man, I had one of the greatest Olympic teams in the history of the game. Fernando Vargas, Floyd Mayweather, myself. Come on, man, David Reed. You know, I can go on and on. Eric Morrell. You know, man, we had a beast of a team. So we didn't care who we fought. Russian, German, we welcomed it. We welcomed it because we knew and we thrived off each other, and we believed that we had something special in 96. I mean, to come away with 6 medals and, you know, you got 5 disputed decisions. I mean, we could have very well had 4 or 5 medals golds that year, you know, in Atlanta. But, you know, that Olympic scoring is just horrendous. You know, you can't ever, really know who won the fight, you know, by the way they doing it. So that was disheartening in a lot of ways, but hey, it was history, man, and we lived it. It was beautiful, and those guys will forever be my brothers, a part of history together.
Do you think it's unfair, though, the way the Cuban situation is structured against you guys? Or?
Not really, because, see, you know, those guys, they very good amateurs because they're seasoned. You know, and sometimes we face those guys, that's our first, second, maybe third international fight when they've been fighting internationally for years. So, you know, we switch cycles every 4 years. These guys stay. So, of course, they have experience over us. But that don't make them a better fighter than us. I mean, so, you know, we were successful against the Cubans, Russians, Germans. We were successful because we were the real deal. That 96 Olympic team was the real deal.
Right. Well, and you guys proved it in the pros.
And we proved it in the pros.
And so many.
We had more We created, 96 created more world champions than any Olympic team. Any Olympic team, we created more world champions. I think that number is 6.
Let me ask you about one more Cuban. I'm sure you saw him fight Felix Savon, the heavyweight. What was your remembrance of him? I'm sure you've seen him.
He just had bionic. He just had a bionic right hand. Everybody I've seen him touch with that right hand, it was good night out ring. But what was so interesting about it, he had a bone sticking out. I don't know what was that in his hand, but he had a bone sticking out his hand. And everybody thought he had a piece of iron in that bone. Like, what the heck? And it's, protruding out like this. You can barely put a wrap on it. I'm like, what is that? Yeah. But every time he touched somebody with it, boom, they out. Yeah. So, Savon, he wrecked us, man. He was a tough kid, man, tough guy.
How do you think he would have done as a pro?
Well, he was stationary. He didn't have much movement. Straight up and down. Boom, that's all he's looking for is the straight right. I think the great heavyweights would have probably ate him and spit him out, probably, But he always had a puncher's chance. He's always had a puncher's chance. So, but as a pro, see, those guys can't go past 3 rounds. You get them 4, 5, 6, and that's why most of them, when they make the transition to pros, it's only 1 or 2 that's really been dominant. Casamayor is one of them that stands out. But I thought the guy I fought, Ramon Garbe, was one of the most gifted, talented fighters I've ever faced in the ring. And I learned a lot when I fought him in Biloxi, Mississippi. Learned a lot. One of the best fighters I think, skill-wise, I've ever been in the ring with, Ramon Garbe.
Yeah, and unfortunately, he didn't do much as a pro.
No, he didn't, because they come from that strict regimen, and then when they come over to America, it's freedom. So a lot of time they get caught in that free part. They don't want to go back to the strenuous training and all that. They're free now, so they're free to do what they want to do. And then, when you have a choice, then you sometimes don't make the right choice or don't make the right decision, you know what I mean? But I think that's just coming over to America and everything being so different, it takes a lot to get used to, But when you're in Cuba, they're focused, they don't have no distractions. And they come over here, it's distractions everywhere. So, that's what I think their worst, their downfall when they come and make the pros in America. It's their downfall. It's just too much access to everything. When they're growing up, they didn't have much access to nothing. So I think that hurts them in a lot of ways.
Talk about your son a little bit, and tell me, where he's at. You said 6-0. I heard you say 6-0.
6-0. He's a young 31. But he's been grinding and really putting it in the last 2, 3, 4 years. So I'm just something I never imagined. I never even envisioned. But when he was young, he was raised in the gym with me. But I always forced him off the bags. I never wanted him to box. I never wanted to force him to box. I wanted him to choose it if he wanted to. But he never spoke up until he was a young adult. And he got in it, man. I'm so thrilled. I went to the gym to see him. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, wow. I saw the natural ability, the natural God-given ability, And I felt like with the right trainer, he could go far. And so we're building that. So I'm excited.
How do you approach that with your son, and what are you aware of to make sure that something doesn't go wrong? Like, how do you approach that?
Really, you really can't control it. All you have to do is just be open and understanding. And hopefully that relationship will take care of itself. It's hard to differentiate from being a trainer and being a father, because there is lines there. As a trainer, there's some things you can say to your fighter, but as a father, certain things you can't say to your son, so it's a thin line. But I just, we've had our ups and downs. I'm not going to tell you it's been easy. No, it's been challenging, but everything's challenging is worth it, you know what I mean? Because we're going to figure it out, and we're never going to quit on each other. So with that being said, I always knew I can train, but it wasn't anything I was pursuing. So I just jumped in it. I'm managing now because I have a lot of experience in the game, but I just have a thrill just giving back, man. Just giving back. That's the only way you can hold on to it. you know, the knowledge, the experience. You got to give it away to keep it. You know what I mean? So that's where we're at right now.
Good. See things and protect them way more than somebody else would. So that's got to be a positive for you guys.
Well, it's not even about protection. You know, it's about letting him.
I'm talking about from money. From
Right. Yeah,
from
the
fight,
yeah, you know,
the business.
there's elements.
Yeah.
There's elements out there in the business, and you know, you try to deal with those as they come.
Yeah.
But you see, some things you're just never aware of. How can you prepare for something that you're not aware of? That's taking place, that's going on. So that's how things get muddy. You know, people aren't open. They're not, sometimes they're just not honest, and that makes it difficult. You know what I mean? You think they have your best interest at hand, but it doesn't seem that way. You know, they say one thing, but they show you something different. But I'm just going to pray that Junior find his own lane and he just take off. You know, when you look at my history and the fact that Junior name is pretty much already cemented in the game, just give him an opportunity. I mean, we're not asking for something that, you know, we're not willing to earn. So, you know, that's where I don't understand why he's not already situated. You know what I mean? And it's kind of disheartening in a way, but, you know, only thing I know is to stay positive and stay committed, stay, you know, dedicated to what you believe in, and, you know, don't let nobody else change your mind. So that's where we're at.
You and Rocky Balboa.
Yes.
Why does the subject of boxing make for so many good movies? Why are there, for 50 years, great boxing movies? What is it about your sport and fighters that make for good movies?
Because I think can't everybody do it, and it's the last real mano a mano, you know, one-on-one. You know, it says a lot when it's just you and that other man. It's the last warrior sport. And when you look at other athletes, baseball players, football players, basketball players, they idolize fighters, you know, because they know what it takes. They know what it takes, what we have to sacrifice, what we have to go through to get to where we want to go. So I think they respect us and veer us from a different point of view. Everybody can relate to that coming from the mud type of scenario, coming from the mud and winning it all. And I think when you look at boxers, some of them they're made in the gym. You know what I mean? They're made in the gym, not anywhere else. And it's one sport you can come from nothing and become and make it. It's a true American story, and that's what Rocky represents to me and so many others.
And that's why
it's that American dream.
To everybody, yeah.
It's that American dream. It really is.
And what was it like to work with Stallone?
It was great.
What was the whole experience like?
It was great.
With him and
something I never imagined in a million years. So when I sit here, I still pinch myself, man, because I remember eating those raw eggs, trying those one-arm sit-ups, push-ups, and everything. You know, Rocky was everything to us in the city, in the inner city. You know, that was our escape. So, you know, when I had the opportunity to fight and box, man, I ran with it. When I won my first trophy and medals, that thing, it was addictive, you know. It felt like I achieved something. You know, I was congratulated in ways I've never been congratulated before. So it did something, and it made my mom proud. It made her really proud to know that I was somewhere working on my craft rather than running around in the streets and not knowing where, you know, if I'm coming home or what. So it gave my mom a little security. And when I saw I was making it and I felt like I was good at a young age, it was in me. I knew it was in me. So a lot of people don't know that Roy Jones Jr., when I watched him in 1988, I was sitting on the couch, not knowing where my future would go. And I said, if Roy Jones can get right there, so can I. And I got up off my couch immediately and ran 3 miles, and I've been running ever since. I've been running ever since, man.
That's awesome.
Thank you, man.
Thanks so much.
I appreciate it.
I really appreciate you stopping by.